Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining ITTStar's webinar today, where we'll dive into a vital subject that is indispensable for every organization to adopt. Regardless of which industry you belong to or the current state of your IT infrastructure, disaster recovery is an essential service that should be an integral part of every IT department within any organization. Disaster recovery is no longer an option. It's a necessity. So let's explore how businesses can proactively prepare for unforeseen events and implement best practices to safeguard their infrastructure against disaster. So, our speakers today are Mohammed Wasim Akram, our marketing research analyst with technical capabilities. He always strives to craft innovative solutions and ideas that can help drive businesses one step forward. Next up, we'll have John Aguilar, our cloud sales manager, who's an expert in understanding customer needs and how businesses can integrate technology and provide the best possible cloud solutions for their needs. Then finally, we'll have Prakash Natarajan, our senior cloud operations engineer. He assumes the responsibility for ensuring the resilience of our infrastructure and follows the best practices in line with a well-architectured framework. So, today we'll dive into the essential best practices for AWS disaster recovery services and understand the critical significance of having AWS DRS in place to mitigate any uncertainty. So, here's a quick overview of our session. So, Wasim will get us started through why disaster recovery is important for every business and how to plan, prepare, and protect the infrastructure from any disaster. Then, John will walk us through some business use cases and problem statements. Then, finally, Prakash will walk us through a real time demo and best practices for AWS DRS. So we'll have a quick Q&A session at the very end. So, feel free to send any questions or comments you may have in the Q&A chat. So let's get the show on the road. I'll hand it over to Wasim to get us started.
Thank you, Sanjana, for the warm introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Wasim, and I'm a marketing professional with a strong IT market research background. Just give me a moment here. Let me present my screen. Okay, so here we are. Right, yeah. So, today we're here because it is our company's passion. It is ITTStar's passion to keep businesses safe, and the reason why we're doing this webinar is because it is our motto to plan, prepare, and protect your business under unforeseen circumstances. Before we dive in, I want you all to know that we're going to save some time for Q&A session at the end, as Sanjana mentioned. But if you have any questions, drop them in while we continue along in the chat. So now let's get started. I'm confident enough that most of you all know about our topic today, which is disaster recovery. But before we explore into what exactly disaster recovery is, let us get a basic understanding about what a disaster is. So first thing first, what exactly is a disaster? A disaster can be defined as an event that prevents an application from fulfilling its business functions in its primary deployed location. And what does disaster recovery mean from an IT perspective? Disaster recovery can be defined as having secondary technology plans, procedures, and trained personals already in place who are ready to respond to any potential future work stopping event in case of a disaster. You can also consider it this way. Disaster recovery in the context of technology has a lot of similarities with hibernation, particularly in their approach. Animals prepare, like for example, bears, for times of scarcity by building up reserves and finding safe locations to hibernate. Now, similarly, if you compare this with disaster recovery secondary systems are prepared to take over essential business functions when the primary systems fail, ensuring the critical business operations can continue with minimal downtime. We certainly hope it never happens, but what if it does happen? Why should you care about having a disaster recovery plan, and why is it an absolute necessity? Let's break this down using a real life perspective so that we can all relate to it. How many of you here have your automobiles insured? How about having your healthcare insurance or your property insurance? I'm willing to bet that most, if not all of us, have one or more of these insurances in place. Why? The reason is pretty simple, because we value our assets and understand the importance of safeguarding our finances and securing our interests, right? Now, think of disaster recovery as the insurance for your business's reputation. It's the guarantee for your brand's integrity. It's the insurance policy for your customer's journey. It's the safety net that ensures your business's smooth operation from a technical perspective. If you value your data, if you value your customers, then there's no other question. Disaster recovery should be your top priority. It's the safety net that ensures your businesses can weather the storm, just like how insurances safeguard your valuable assets. So let's dive deeper into why disaster recovery is an absolute must for businesses of all sizes. So now that we've covered the basics, here are a few disaster recovery common disasters that occur, and I'll be walking over the different types of disasters that can strike. Firstly, we have hardware failure. We have this recent uh, disaster that occurred because of a hardware failure, the recent United Airlines 77 flight. That kind of gives us a vivid example of why resilience is very important. For those of you who don't know, that was that same plane where the engine had caught fire and the pilot managed to land the plane with just one engine. And in this scenario, the jet engine or the engine failure is kind of akin to a disaster. And business continuity is making sure that your plane can still land safe after the disaster. Moving on to the different type of disaster, we have a software disaster. I'm going to tell you a quick story now about Pixar. In 98, someone at Pixar ran this wrong command. We've all done it ourselves. Anyway, they ran this wrong command in the wrong directory and they managed to destroy almost 90% of Toy Story 2. If you would ask me, did they have a backup of the movie? Yes, they did, but the backup was corrupt. But they got really, really lucky in this case. The technical director had just given birth and she was working from home with a full copy of the film. So they managed to restore the whole film from her computer, and this film, went on to make millions and millions at the box office. And we even had sequels like Toy Story 3 and 4 coming in. And Pixar itself made billions of dollars out of these sequels. This kind of gives us a clear example about why disaster recovery and backups are so essential and important. Moving on to the next slide about ransomware, malware, disaster statistics. Here are some numbers on your screen where you can see that almost 400,000 new malware variants are detected every day. And below are the numbers about why we should be protected with ransomware and malware attacks, and why disaster recovery is so essential. So ransomware attacks, they just not lead to a downtime as systems and data are affected. They also have a severe impact in your organization's reputation. Customers and clients may lose trust in an organization that cannot protect its own customers' data. Disaster recovery planning is a proactive and preventive measure against ransomware attacks, and it helps organizations to establish protocols for cybersecurity, educate employees on best security practices, and create a resilient IT infrastructure that can withstand and recover from cyber threats. We also have some other types of disasters which are more common, like power outages, natural disasters, and thefts, which are among one of the most common disasters that can strike. And this slide covers, generally about the statistics after a disaster, how and what businesses suffer. So as you can see, 40% of businesses close after suffering a disaster. And we have a great number, a very high number, which is 75% of businesses do not have a disaster recovery plan in place, even in this stage in time where things are digital and where everyone is dependent on using their apps to order food, to order anything what we want. So disaster recovery has to be a practice for every business in today's time. Moving on to the next slide, I'll be covering about why traditional disaster recovery setups are outdated, and why cloud disaster recovery is something what businesses should consider, and why cloud disaster recovery has benefits compared to the traditional DR setup. So on-prem disaster recovery, from a financial perspective, requires significant upfront investment, be it on hardware, be it on software, be it in maintenance. There is a lot of upfront investment that you require. Whereas in cloud, you do not have to invest in any of these. You can proceed with the provisioning of resources as and when you require in a simple pay-as-you-go model, allowing for more flexibility to scale resources up or down depending on your needs, and reducing your overall costs. Secondly, we have the implementation time for setting up and configuring infrastructure resources on-prem is also very high in comparison to cloud. In cloud, you can get started within minutes. We also have an advantage in the aspect of geographical considerations. In the cloud-based DR approach, the data centers are geographically dispersed, and basically they enhance your resilience against any regional disasters, which can be a challenge for businesses limited to one physical location that can also be prone to any types of natural disasters. I would like to conclude that cloud-based DR is always better than having an on-prem traditional DR setup, and we will be covering more of this in the upcoming section with Prakash. And at this time, I would now be handing it over to John Aguilar, who will be exploring disaster recovery use cases on franchise-based businesses that have multi-site operations, and also some health industry use cases. Over to you, John.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks so much. And thanks to everybody for being here and participating in our webinar today. Hope everything is valuable information for you guys. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Like was mentioned before, my name is John Aguilar. I'm our sales manager here at ITTStar, based out of Atlanta. So I'm going to go over 2 quick use cases when it comes to an industry-wide use case, and then a brief overview of ITTStar. I'm going to try to keep my time short to be able to hand off the mic to the meat of the presentation, which is more around the technical capabilities and how DR is set up and the value of it in the cloud. So I know you guys aren't here to hear any kind of pitch or anything like that, so I'll make it short and sweet. So let's talk about 2 key use cases. Crisis readiness is definitely something that every business needs to be aware of, not just a healthcare organization like is shown here. So let's talk about the franchise business, the franchise industry, whether that's retail franchises, automobile franchises, auto parts, oil and gas franchises, fast food franchises, right? DR is exceedingly vital for those different industries and those different companies. Those companies rely on their centralized IT systems to bring those applications to the forefront. Think about a self-service portal at your McDonald's, right, nearby, where you're starting to put up your menus. If that goes down, how are people going to order? Those organizations aren't staffed in today's world like they used to be back in the 90s, where cashiers were ready and rocking and ready to go when it came to taking orders. So if one site's infrastructure or applications go down, that's already an immediate revenue loss. So that centralized IT organization that ports that application out to all of those different franchises needs to be ready to bring that infrastructure, bring that application back up and running at 100% performance automatically, or as fast as humanly possible. Because not only do you deal with revenue loss there, you deal with lost customers, impacted brand awareness, negative customer experience, all of the above. At the same time, some organizations with franchise-based models maintain their customer information, whether that's personal customer information, whether that's their addresses, their payment card information, all of the above. If a threat happens and one of those sites needs to go down, that's a threat to not only your business operations, but your customers, their livelihoods, their physical locations, any and all data that's collected around their personas. All of that information is up for grabs. potentially, if it's a security threat or a hacking threat or anything like that. So in that case, it's very important for that centralized IT system to have those safeguards put in place where that site can be taken down and immediately brought back up from the DR site. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that's done. But those are some examples from a franchise business. From a healthcare disaster recovery use case perspective, it's quite obvious, right? It's not just about money. It's not just about personal data. A lot of times those healthcare applications are used in life or death scenarios, whether that's a fringe technology in an ambulance that's connecting back through CDN or through Bluetooth or through satellite, who knows, back to a centralized IT hub. If something goes wrong with that equipment or with that centralized IT site, that's actual users who are going to be interacting with actual people in need that need those applications up and running at a moment's notice. So immediate disaster recovery, or as soon as humanly possible, disaster recovery is so important. And when it comes to the legal and financial implications for potential healthcare data being leaked or lost, health patient records being lost, number of medications delivered to different folks in the ICU, if that data is lost for any reason, if it's not being stored, if it's not being backed up and then recovered immediately, could lead to a lot of confusion and potentially life-threatening situations. So some easy applications to the need for disaster recovery. I'm sure that each of you are thinking about the need for disaster recovery now in your own business, and we're excited to talk to you guys about that. When it comes to weather data, just wanted to include this. This is some data for the year of 2023. Just some key industry or national weather records and the impact in terms of dollars and cents that they had on the global economy, right? Weather itself is critical to operations for businesses that are destroyed, for data that's lost, for inventory that's lost. It's important for that disaster recovery strategy to be up and running. So I think you guys get the picture, right? Disaster recovery is really important. Why is ITTStar a great partner to talk to you? And why are we well-versed in the concept of IT infrastructure disaster recovery? That's what I'll tell you about for the next kind of 2 minutes. I'll give you a brief overview of who we are, what we do. ITTStar, we're an advanced AWS consulting partner. That puts us in the upper echelon of all consulting partners worldwide at that advanced status. We've been around for 12 plus years at this point. Our headquarters is in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have all these other locations to bring our customers 24/7 service. Our NOC is built out in Bangalore, India, and that's where a lot of our delivery happens. That's where a lot of our training and development happens as well. We'll get into that. But you can see we've got an abundance of AWS certifications, an abundance of transformations. When it comes to the areas of our expertise here on the right side of the screen, if you're experiencing challenges in those areas, including and beyond AWS infrastructure and disaster recovery in the cloud, we'd love to talk to you about those. So a brief comment here. We love to invest in our customers. We love to do proof of concepts. If you're fiddling around with an idea or you want to do a test case for what DRS in AWS might look like for your business, or even other different POCs around data analytics or AI machine learning and Gen AI, that's something that our teams can step in and support you with. And last but not least, a little bit more detail about our different practice areas. Obviously, we're talking to death, AWS infrastructure and cloud managed services from a 24/7 capability perspective. We are a data analytics competency partner when it comes to developing data lakes, data platforms, building out analytics platforms and reporting and dashboarding for our customers, helping our customers understand data strategy in a big data world. That's well within our skill set. Our enterprise development team working directly with our AI ML team to build out intelligent or AI or ML automated and driven applications. That's something that's well within our wheelhouse. When it comes to DevOps and understanding DevOps pipelines, the concept of DevSecOps and incorporating security into the DevOps practice, that's something that is, again, well within our wheelhouse that we'd love to talk to you about. But that's our overview. That's what I wanted to cover today. I know you guys want to get to the meat of the presentation. So at this point, I'm going to hand the mic back over to Sanjana. I believe we've got a short video for you guys to watch around who we are and what we do and DRS in the cloud. So Sanjana, take it away. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thanks, John. Yeah, as John mentioned before, we do have a quick informational video for you all to learn more about disaster recovery. And then our next speaker, Prakash, will take it over.
In today's fast-paced digital world, data is the ultimate lifeline of any business. But what if disaster strikes? Are you prepared? Imagine your business just like any other bustling workspace. Your team, hard at work, relies on critical data, applications, and IT systems every day. But what if a disaster, like a natural calamity or a cyber attack, disrupts everything? Chaos and downtime could lead to lost revenue, customer trust, and more. Introducing Disaster Recovery System, DRS, your ultimate business safeguard. Through our expert DRS integration service, we have helped organizations to stand fortified against data vulnerabilities regardless of their industry in a secure digital landscape. DRS involves regular data backups and a quick recovery strategy, minimizing downtime. Advanced security features ensure data integrity and prevent breaches. Remember, it's not about the cost of a disaster recovery plan, it's about the cost of not having one. Don't let your hard-earned brand go to waste. Protect it, invest in a data recovery plan, and secure the future of your business. Connect with us to learn more about how DRS can shield your business. DRS, your shield against disaster. Be prepared, be resilient. Visit our website or call us to secure your business with Disaster Recovery System. Act now.
Hello everyone, myself Prakash Natarajan, and I hope the video played was informational, and that's the reason we are here. I'm a senior cloud engineer working at ITTStar, where I'll be covering about the AWS DRS service that is used to safeguard our cloud infrastructure during natural disasters or cyber attacks, followed by a quick demo. Without any delay, let's go over the agenda that is lined up for today, where we'll be discussing about well-architected framework, introduction to AWS DRS, comparison between CEDR and AWS DRS, and followed by the DR strategies and its types. And finally, we'll be looking at the benefits of using AWS DRS service, followed by a quick demo. As we all know that running any workloads in the cloud environment, we need to follow certain best practices, and that's where AWS well-architected framework came in, and it says the best practices and principles for designing, operating reliable, secure, and high-performance application in the cloud environment. This framework was designed to help organizations build robust and efficient cloud systems. Before we move on to the describing the pillars of well-architected framework, I would like to summarize the challenges organizations face without following the well-architected framework. So the first challenge is about the security vulnerabilities. Without the framework, organizations struggle to implement robust security features that leads to potential data breaches and unauthorized access. The second challenge, the inefficient access resource utilization, where the absence of optimization practices results in over provisioning or underutilization of resources, leading to increased cost and reduced efficiency. The third challenge would be the unpredictable performance, where cloud systems suffer from inconsistent performance without adherence to best practices, impacting user experience and productivity. The last challenge I would like to highlight is the poor disaster recovery preparedness, where insufficient planning for disaster recovery may lead to prolonged recovery times, data loss, and disruptions during unforeseen events. Moving on to the next slide, where we'll be covering all the 6 pillars of the well-architected framework and going with the first pillar, that is operational excellence. So this pillar focuses on the ability to run and monitor systems and respond to events efficiently. to deliver business value. The key principles include automation, documentation, and performance efficiency. The best practice is to implement automation for repetitive tasks and define operational processes and continuously improve through feedback and the learning. Moving on to the next pillar, that is security, where it emphasizes protecting information, systems, and assets while delivering value through risk assessments, data protection, and identity and access management. The best practice is to implement a strong identity and access management strategy, encrypt the data, and continuously monitor for security threats, and have a well defined incident response plan. Moving on to the third pillar, that is reliability, where it aims to ensure that systems are highly available, fault tolerant, and can recover from failures gracefully. This pillar addresses fault tolerance, scaling, and recovery mechanism. The best practice is to use well architected multi AZ architectures, automate recovery procedures, and perform chaos engineering to test system resilience. Moving on to the fourth pillar, that is performance efficiency. This focuses on the efficient use of computing resources to meet system requirements, including optimizing cost while maintaining high performance. The best practice would be to monitor and optimize resource utilization, implement caching, and choose the right instance types and storage options based on the application requirements. The fifth pillar is about cost optimization, where it addresses cost control by eliminating the waste, understanding the managing and cost, and selecting cost effective resources. The best practice would be to continuously monitor and analyze cost, implement cost allocation tagging by leveraging AWS Cost Explorer, and take advantage of cost saving mechanisms like AWS reserved instances. The last pillar is the sustainability, where it focuses on designing and operating cloud workloads in a way that it minimizes their environmental impact, and it is designed to help customers meet their sustainability goals and contribute to a more sustainable future. The best practice would be to use serverless computing whenever possible, as serverless computing eliminates the need to provision and manage servers that lead to significant energy saving, and right size of your instances, where you can use the smallest instance size according to our needs. Okay, before we move on to introducing EDR service, I would like to highlight about the real world case study where ITTStar got an opportunity to work with one of the customer from financial domain where the workloads were running on premises, and ITTStar worked together in migrating them to AWS cloud and enabled all the best practices following the well architected framework, and also set up the DR strategy as per their workloads. Customers were facing challenges in managing the sensitive financial data and efficiently, whose existing on-premises infrastructure lacked scalability that hindered the company's ability to adapt to growing demands and regulatory changes. And I would like to highlight about the implementation steps where we covered each pillar, starting with security, where we could implement robust identity and access management policies, and introduced encryption at rest and in transit to secure sensitive financial data. Also set up continuous monitoring and alerting for potential security threats. Coming on to operational excellence, we automated the routine operational tasks to improve the efficiency and established well-defined operational processes for incident response and management. Also, we implemented CloudFormation for infrastructure as code to automate resource provisioning. When it came to reliability and scalability, we designed multi-AZ architectures for high availability and implemented auto-scaling to adapt to varying workloads. Conducted regular disaster recovery drills to ensure and reliable recovery in case of failures. When it came to performance optimization, we utilized RDS for optimized database performance and employed CloudWatch for real-time monitoring and performance. Also leveraged AWS Lambda for serverless compute, enhancing resource efficiency. Finally, with the cost optimization, we were able to introduce cost allocation tags for resource tracking and utilized AWS Cost Explorer for detailed cost analysis and optimization. Also, we adjusted the instance type based on the performance requirements, optimizing cost without compromising the performance. The results were significant with all the pillars where in security there were no reported breaches post implementation, and the operational efficiency increased by 30% through automation and well defined processes. Customer experienced seamless scaling during peak periods, ensuring they're satisfied, and achieved 20% of cost savings through resource optimization and effective cost management. Moving on to the next slide, we'll be introducing DRS. So AWS DRS is a service that helps to recover our on-premise or cloud-based application quickly and reliably from disasters or other disruption. So how does AWS DRS work? As AWS DRS is an agent-based setup, we install the AWS replication agent on the source machines and configure DRS to replicate the data from the source servers to the AWS staging area. As AWS DRS replicates data in real time, we can perform non-disruptive tests to confirm that AWS DRS is working properly. If a disaster occurs, we can launch recovery instances in AWS within minutes and can fail back to the primary site when ready. Okay, as we could see the architecture of AWS DRS, that the source servers either on-premises or cloud-based servers where we want to protect with DRS, the replication agent is installed on the source servers to replicate data to the AWS and is responsible for identifying the data that needs to be replicated and transferring the data to AWS. Moving on to the staging area, where it is a subnet in the AWS account where DRS replicates data from the source servers, as the staging area is designed to reduce cost by using affordable storage and minimal compute resources. Finally, the recovery instances are launched in the AWS from the replicated data in the staging area. You can launch recovery instances for drills or for production use. Next up is the comparison between Cloud Endure disaster recovery and DRS. As we all can see that AWS DRS is a native AWS service that supports all the global regions available in the console except for GovCloud and China region, and still Cloud Endure disaster recovery supporting GovCloud and China region. And Cloud Endure disaster recovery is not part of AWS Management Console, and DRS is part of AWS Management Console. When it comes to resource management, legacy projects and blueprints are not up to date with EC2, and in DRS, we have launch settings and standard Amazon EC2 launch templates. Whereas with public internet access, Cloud Endure required connection between agents, console, and the replication server. Whereas in DRS, it has AWS private links and the direct connect for connecting the external servers, and public internet access is not required. With temporary IAM credentials, both the agents require temporary IAM credentials, as Cloud Endure is outside the management console, and with DRS, it is required. Moving on to the next slide, where we'll be covering the DR strategies that are available in detail. First, we'll be covering the backup and restore, where backup and restore is a DR strategy that involves creating copies of data and storing them in a separate location from the production environment. And in the event of disaster, the data can be restored to the production environment to minimize downtime and data loss. This strategy is relatively simple to implement and cost effective, but it can have longer RTOs and RPOs other than DR strategy. The benefits of this strategy is it is simple to implement and manage and is cost effective. It is also flexible and can be used to protect a wide range of data. The drawbacks are it has longer RTOs and RPOs than other DR strategies, and it requires manual intervention to restore the data and is not suitable for applications that require very low RTOs and RPOs. Moving on to the next strategy, that is Pilot Lite. This is a cost-effective strategy where we can implement DRS as it involves replicating data to the recovery region while only provisioning minimal infrastructure, leading to longer RTOs but lower the cost. How it works? We replicate data from primary region to recovery region and provision minimal infrastructure in recovery region like load balancer or auto scaling group. No compute instance are provisioned initially, and in case of a disaster, we need to launch compute instances in recovery region and scale up the infrastructure as needed. The benefits are it's cost effective, scalable, and reliable. The drawbacks are it has longer RTO and manual intervention is required, and it is also suitable for organizations seeking cost effective disaster recovery, willing to accept longer RTO for lower cost, and applications that can quickly scale up. The third strategy is warm standby. This involves maintaining a fully functional copy of a production environment in the standby state, and this copy is kept up to date with the production environment so it can be activated quickly in the event of a disaster. Warm standby is more complex and expensive DR strategy than backup and restore, as it can provide much shorter RTOs and RPOs. Here are some benefits where warm standby can provide RTOs and RPOs of minutes or even seconds. Because the standby environment is already up and running, it can be activated quickly in the event of a disaster. Warm standby can also provide high availability for the application in the event of major outage. Moving on to the last strategy, that is multi-site active-active. This strategy involves running two or more identical production environments in separate data centers or cloud regions, as this strategy allows to continue operations in the event of a disaster in one site by quickly switching traffic to the other site. The benefits are can provide RTOs and RPOs of seconds or even milliseconds. The downtime is reduced as both sites are active, and traffic can be quickly switched to the other side in case of a disaster. It provides high availability for the application even in the event of major outage, and the drawbacks are it requires significant amount of planning and effort to implement and manage. Can be more expensive than other DR strategies such as backup and restore, where both active sites must be kept up to date and maintained, which requires ongoing effort. So, who should use this strategy? Active-active is a good DR strategy for organizations that have a critical need for high availability, the budget to support the increased cost and complexity, the expertise to implement and manage a complex DR environment. Next up is the benefits. DRS can scale to meet the needs of even the largest organization, as it is built on highly reliable AWS infrastructure and is available in multiple AWS regions around the world. Moving on to the next slide, why do we need to upgrade from Cloud Endure to DRS? With the sunsetting of Cloud Endure by March 31st, 2024, transitioning to AWS DRS ensures continued support, updates, and access to new features. And new CEDR agent installation from December 1st, 2023 will no longer be supported in any AWS region, excluding China and GovCloud regions. And also, we can automate the upgrade through AWS services using System Manager, Bash or PowerShell scripting, on monitoring enablement using AWS CloudWatch. So that's the end of my presentation, and now it's time for a quick demo on how to enable disaster recovery services in the AWS environment. So here is the DRS console, where first we need to initialize it for setting up the replication server. So once we set up the replication settings, we install the agent and start with the replication to AWS, and then perform drills and recover and fail back. So these are some configuration settings for the replication server, where we can select our subnets and the server instance type. We can also select the volume type, GP3, GP2, based on the application. And also automatically you can replicate a new disk by enabling this checkbox. And AWS DRS creates a dedicated security group. And under data routing and throttling, we can use private IP for external servers, that is on-premise, using direct connect or VPC peering. And AWS DRS takes a point in time snapshots, and we can select the retention days. So this is for default DRS launch settings, where we can select the recommended instance type. And again the subnets, and this is the preview page. So for this demo, I already have an application running in the EC2 console. So this is my source application, which is already running, and I would like to show you the steps that it prompts. Let me connect. The initialization steps are complete. We need to identify the source machine that we are about to replicate and attach and policy to the role. So for this demo, I am using this role, AWS Disaster Recovery Instance Policy. And now I'm connected to the source machine. And we can provide the root user permission for executing the commands. So this is the command. Either we can use wget or curl command for Linux machines. This is for installing the replication agent. And the next command is to provide the installer path. So when it asks for region name, you can provide the region name from where you're replicating the source machine. So currently I'm in Oregon, that is US West 2. So I'll be providing the region name. And next it's asked for the disk that we want to replicate. So it highlights the disk here, and we can provide a disk name. I'm giving /dev/xvda. You see here, since I already have the setup, it just finished quickly. But when you are doing it for the first time, it takes some time, and once the installation is complete, you should be able to see a replication server in the DRS console. So this is how it will be. We can find all the information related to the source machine. And this is server info, tags, disk settings, and replication settings. This is DRS launch setting. And post launch of the source machine, we can also enable these options where it additionally installs SSM agent, CloudWatch, and we can also create an AMI from an instance. Okay, since we already have a machine ready, we can initiate the recovery drill and the actual recovery. Whereas if we initiate the recovery drill, we can see all the snapshots and we can store to a particular time. So I'll be selecting the first use most recent data, and I'll be clicking on initiating the drill. So once the drill is initiated, we will be able to see the conversion server and replication server. in the console, the EC2 console. Okay, that is all I had for today, and I would like to hand over to Sanjana. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Prakash, for walking us through a great demo and informational session. That was definitely a lot of information, but I hope you guys were able to process it all. And please reach out if you have any questions or comments. So now it's time for a quick Q&A session. So let's take down some questions from our participants. Speakers, are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So we'll try our best to answer as many questions as possible today. If we don't get to your question, we'll definitely respond through email. So please keep an eye out. As John mentioned before, we do provide an exclusive one-on-one session pinpointing your specific organization's needs. So, feel free to email us with any inquiries or questions to our sales manager, John, at john.aguilar@ittstar.com. And so now let's go ahead with our Q&A. It looks like our first question is, I'm from the healthcare side of business, so how would you ensure that, these compliances are met while implementing a DER plan? Okay, it looks like this one's for you, Wasim.
I'd like to answer this question. If you are in the healthcare side, according to HIPAA security rule, a disaster recovery plan should basically include 4 to 5 steps and how your disaster recovery planning has to be according to the compliance. The first step is to have a communication plan wherein we document a set of rules and procedures referring to how employees should communicate with each other and manage a disaster. It should include how to report to a disaster, what to notify, who to notify, and what will be the contact information, and what will be the different employee roles following a disaster. And the second step following a communication plan will be to have a detailed asset inventory, an inventory of all the computer workstations and other electronic equipments within the facility or that are regularly used. That should also be documented. Following that, we should have a equipment plan. So the HIPAA disaster plan should include how electronic equipments can be damaged and what will be the severity of the damage in case of a disaster, different disasters, and how it can also be protected in case of those disasters. And lastly, we should have a service restoration plan in place, which should include a vendor communication strategy, allowing the healthcare organization to restore services as quickly as possible after a disaster has been hit. I hope that answers the question.
Great, thank you, Wasim. It looks like our next question is, a participant asked, what metrics does AWS DRS use to perform or measure the performance and efficiency of its replication process? Prakash, take this one.
Yes. So AWS DRS uses metrics like replication lag, where the amount of time that has passed since the latest data was replicated from the source server to the AWS staging area. And the next metric would be the replication throughput, where it calculates the rate at which the data is being replicated from the source server to the AWS staging area. The third metric is the replication errors, where the number of errors that have occurred during the replication. And the fourth one is RTO, where the amount of time it takes to recover an application or data from the AWS staging area to a production environment. The last metric is the recovery point objective, where the amount of data that may be lost in the event of a disaster measured in time.
Thank you, Prakash. It also looks like the next one's for you. It says, what are the common challenges faced during the implementation of AWS DRS in a complex IT environment?
Yeah. So some of the common challenges we see is that the network connectivity, where a complex IT environment may have variety of network configurations that makes it difficult to establish reliable network connectivity between the source servers and the AWS staging area. The next would be the data volume, because we're replicating large volumes of data from the source servers to the AWS staging area can be time consuming and resource intensive. The third challenge is application complexity, where complex applications may have complex dependencies that need to be considered when replicating the data and launching recovery instances. The next challenge would be the change management, where it is important to have a well defined change management process in place, because when implementing DRS, we need to ensure that changes to the source server are made in a controlled manner and that the replication is not disrupted. Finally, testing and validation. It is important to test and validate the AWS DRS implementation before going live, as this is to ensure that the replication process is working as expected and that the recovery instance can be launched successfully.
Great. Thank you, Prakash. Looks like our next question is, how does the cost of disaster recovery planning compare to potential disaster related financial losses? Wasim, go for it.
That was a really good question. So, in today's digital world, businesses, if you consider, they invest thousands and thousands of dollars in building up a strong brand. They work day and night tirelessly to create a unique brand identity and gain the customer's trust. And overall, it is a substantial investment. Now, imagine spending so much on branding and then a disaster strikes. It could be any kind of a disaster. It could be a natural or disaster, an unexpected crisis. But what if you're not prepared? What if you do not have a disaster recovery plan? The consequences can be devastating. You may find yourself starting over from the very scratch. Your beautiful brand, all the hard work that you've done, all gone. So all your efforts and investments and branding strategies become vain. Your customers might lose trust, and competitors may seize this opportunity. So in today's fast-paced world where things are unpredictable, protecting your brand is just not optional. It is absolute necessity. Remember, it's not about the cost of a disaster recovery plan. It's about the cost of not having one in the terms of a disaster. So don't let your hard-earned brand to go to waste. Protect it, invest in a disaster recovery plan, and secure the future of your business.
Great, Wasim. Thank you for the explanation. Okay, our next question says, how well does AWS DRS integrate with existing cloud architectures and systems? Prakash, would you like to take this one?
Yes, Anjana. As we all know that AWS is a native service, AWS DRS is a native service, and it integrates well with the existing cloud architectures and systems by providing a flexible and scalable solution for replicating and recovering data and application from a variety of sources. It is tightly integrated with other AWS services where we can replicate EC2 instances, RDS, EKS clusters, and VPC networks, S3 buckets, and on-premises servers and application to the staging area for quick recovery in the event of failure or disaster.
Great. Thank you, Prakash, for answering that one. So it looks like we do have a few more questions in the chat. So we'll definitely answer the rest through email. So keep an eye out. And as John mentioned before, all our participants are eligible for a free, well-architectured framework review with our experts. You can send an inquiry to John, who will be able to help you further as per your business needs. And once again, for joining our webinar. And this is Sanjana from ITTStar signing off. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to our team.